Righty, friends, we're back. It's your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 617. We are recording on April the 25th. And Brianna, how are you?
I'm good. I'm busy. Like it's baseball season for like watching my team, but now it's also baseball season for my kids. This is first. So all of you parents out there that are like hauling kids to games and double headers, and that's your entire weekend. Props to you. Lots of respect. But I'm good. I was in LA last week for the Variety Entertainment Marketing Summit, which was awesome. Great event, and really enjoyed speaking on a panel out there, and met a lot of great people. And so now just here preparing for new fronts and all the crazy stuff happening in the TV industry. What's going on with you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, excited about baseball. I was at the Jays game last night, actually, against the White Sox, the opener there, which they won, which was great. Yeah, it's the best time of year for sports, right? And then you have NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. My Leafs like stormed back down 4-1 last night in the third to come back, tie it, and then win in overtime against Tampa. So that was amazing. So they have a 3-1 series lead. So pretty happy about that. Yeah, weather's good. I'm getting ready to head out next week to Rotterdam for the Geospatial World Forum. So if you're out in that world, come and say hi. Love to see you. But yeah, everything's going okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we've got our usual 4 stories for you this week, and kind of going all over the world. And I'll let Brianna start us off.
Yeah, so let's start off in the gaming industry this week. And we've talked so much about like Niantic and Pokemon Go and how they really, I would say, merged through AR, the physical and the digital worlds, and did a great job, and massive adoption, right? Well, now Niantic has partnered with Japan's Capcom company to unveil a new game called Monster Hunter Now. So the premise is that this is like this fantasy themed geolocation game, and it's role playing, so players can find each other using their smartphones, obviously, in the real world, and then they can work together to either trap or kill these monsters. And so it's overlaid on like this fantasy version of the real world. So for example, Tokyo's Shibuya Entertainment District, it can become this like swamp, filled with monsters, or it could become a vast desert. So kind of just like bringing all of that together. And they can even bring monsters back home that they find on their travels, apparently. So it's free to play. It looks like it's going to launch in September, and it's going to feature like in-game purchases as usual, right? It's not necessarily going to be critical to advancing in the game, but it will allow probably for people to, spend a lot more money there, and obviously drive revenue. So for Capcom, this is interesting because this is kind of an attempt for them to capture that share of market on the expanding global smartphone game, because they've primarily been focused on like console and PC games. And so now, mobile accounted for like half the industry gaming revenue last year, with $92 billion. That is like massive opportunity. $92 billion, that's US dollars. So that outweighed both console and PC games combined. And so I think that we just like, this is a huge opportunity that they're seeing. And Capcom is Japan's top maker of these big budget titles for consoles and PCs, but hasn't done much to drive revenue in mobile. So I think this is a great opportunity for them to either take an existing game and make it available for mobile, or continue to partner with like Niantic and like big titles and make that foray into mobile. So I think this is interesting. Something, I don't know why I keep thinking about this, but my question with some of these games that are like merging that real world and digital world, when you are out walking around, when you're so immersed in your phone, I mean, even just like texting while you're walking and crossing a street can be kind of dangerous. And I wonder, at what point are we going to hear stories of like, this is a danger, like so entrapped in the screen that you are not watching your surroundings. However, I think that in the right environment and like parks and like getting people out and walking around, it's fun. And, Pokemon Go did an excellent job of getting people out and about. And so it'll be interesting to see if this Monster Hunter now is going to drive the same type of results, or, even come close to scratching the surface there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I love the Pokemon Go initiative when it started, and kind of the partnerships, with merchants and retail. And I think this sort of space in general of, location-based, geolocation-based games layered on physical world, and digital world, I think is still in its early days. I think there's a lot happening there. Looking ahead to our Retail Local conference coming up June 13th, 14th at Mall of America. One of the main sponsors this year is a company called Atlas Reality, and they're also in this space. So they have a location-based game, partnerships with brands like, Burger King and such. And so, you kind of, play the game, earn rewards, cash in those rewards at physical, merchants. So I think there's a lot to be said about the power of what's going on here. What I like specifically about this partnership is, you've got two big players essentially coming together in Capcom. We all know Capcom from the console gaming side, Resident Evil and Street Fighter and all these big games, that have been out there for a long time, generating billions of dollars in revenue for them. But as you pointed out, like, they don't really have a major play in the mobile gaming side of things. So, teaming up with Niantic makes a ton of sense for me to do that. I like that they're also pulling their existing sort of characters from their console gaming franchises into the physical world. And I think for me, that's going to resonate really well with, that kind of younger audience that already knows the Capcom games and now can just play them, in a mobile environment, on an airplane, while they're traveling, wherever they are with their family, those kinds of things, I think makes a ton of sense. So I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be a big win for both companies. All right, on to our second story. So this one's kind of interesting. It kind of hit my radar this week, and I'm like, okay, I think I need to talk about this. So RedBox, the kiosks, that you can rent movies from, has a partnership with Dollar General. And so they have announced that they're adding 1,500 new RedBox kiosks over the next 2 years, bringing the total in their partnership with Dollar General to 5,000 locations by the end of 2024. And, I look at this and I go, wait a second, and the reason this kind of came on my radar is RedBox, was very active LDMA member in the early days. And, speaking at all our conferences, all that kind of stuff. And I remember kind of going back and hearing some of those comments about how successful their loyalty program was, like one of the most, sort of engagement loyalty programs out there. And I'm like, wow, is this still relevant? Are people still, renting movies from, a kiosk in a retail store? Well, they are apparently. And so they've added, all these new movie rentals. Apparently it's jumped 102% in the last 3 months. And this is all being driven by, them starting to add the latest movies to these kiosks. And I wonder, for me, and this is a question because I don't have the answers to it, is it a pushback from, where we are right now from an economic perspective, inflation, all these subscription services, Disney Plus and Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these things, and people cutting back on some of those and saying, I'll just go and rent, the latest movie when I want to, that one movie, as opposed to paying a monthly subscription because, I need to cut somewhere. And so I'm wondering if that's, a factor here. So to me, this is super interesting. And they say they've seen a 50% increase in monthly active users to a total of 60 million. These are big numbers, right? So RedBox is still, making it happen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. And the reason why my gut tells me that this works is because of the clientele that Dollar General has, right? And I think that this isn't necessarily saying that there is a decrease in streaming or a decrease in spend on ad supported video on demand or subscription based video on demand. I think that it is showing that there is a specific market that is tailored towards that. So you're not going to put a Redbox outside of a Saks Fifth Avenue, but you will put one outside of a Dollar General. So I think that it's easy for people, they're used to it. And I think that it's also maybe more of like a demographic and cultural offering that fits really well with where they're doing that. So I think that it's great that Redbox is like buying more time and seeing growth and continued at least revenue coming in. But I really think that this is a short window of time that they have available here. And they've got to continue to look to how do we remain relevant in 5 years, because I'm not sure that in 5 years' time, this is going to still be applicable. I don't know.
So what you're saying, Ariana, is the trend we've been watching about like the store inside of the store, like, putting a Sephora inside a, Saks or, whatever, these kinds of things. We're not going to see the return of Blockbuster inside of, Dollar General. That's
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
I think that there's like a deadline here to be had.
Okay. All right.
That's my
Okay.
that's my suspicion. All right. And now we're gonna shift over to more of a true like location story. It's been a while, but we used to talk about a company called Point Inside outside of Washington that did a lot of, let's say what the name is, indoor location tracking amongst other things. And we haven't really heard a lot from them in a while. And the announcement came out that MapsPeople, who's headquartered in Denmark, has offices around the world, has reached an agreement now to acquire all of the US-based Point Inside customer contracts and their indoor mapping assets. So when you think about like, well, what does that mean? Indoor maps, there's more than 1,800 shopping malls in the US, more than 200 airports around the world. And really, this is focused on helping MapsPeople to, I would say, accelerate some of their opportunities, right? So they have these strategic verticals that they're going after, and now they've acquired their contracts, right? And it also is going to add some new products to their current portfolio. So they've been doing a lot of point of interest data, location-based services, last mile delivery services, and now they've got kind of these indoor maps. And they also gained UK customer base with more than 170 large retail stores. So I think that like this is really it's interesting. We see some of these investments and I think that they're just not, the investors are probably thinking, okay, like we're just, we're paying the bills, we're keeping the lights on, but this is not going to be like a unicorn. We're not going to see this company hockey stick. So how can we consolidate and diversify or just kind of get out of where we are? And I think we're going to continue to see things like this happening in the indoor or just location data space in general. And so they're expecting to close this acquisition this month. And this is ASG Advisors is the acting business advisor to Point Inside. And so I don't know. I think that it's interesting just to see stories like this pop up. It's obviously a huge benefit to MapsPeople. Like, let's take that over. Let's diversify our offerings, maybe grow what we're doing. And they're seeing more steady growth. So it's probably a pretty fair deal for both of the company's objectives at this point, it sounds like. But it does make you say, just a little bit, what's happening?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Like I think, this is a company, as you indicated right at the start, we've been, covering them for a long time. They were one of the very early members of the LBMA. I remember when we first opened the chapter in Seattle, Point Inside hosted that event with us. So, there's a long history there. And the company's, had some good success over the years. I think they've raised over $8 million. They, have had some good clients in Stables and others, that I'm aware of. They've even made their own acquisitions over time. Area Metrics, I remember they acquired them also with a Seattle-based company. But I haven't heard a lot, in the last couple of years. So, it's been kind of a bit quiet coming from them. there's been other players emerge in this sector. You know, one company in particular that we see a lot in the indoor location and mapping space these days is Orient, you know, out of Israel. And I see them kind of everywhere, all over the place right now and making big announcements. So I think there's, you know, it's a bit of a crowded space. And so maybe this is, you know, a good opportunity for MapsPeople to say, hey, let's acquire some assets and some technology here, some people, and some customers, and obviously a, you know, position in the UK market. And let's add that to what we do, and see if we can't, you know, kind of revitalize this and kind of use this as a bit of fuel to kind of grow our business forward. So it's probably a really good thing for MapsPeople. I'm not sure from a point of view, there's no details on the financial aspects of this, you know, where they all net out or if any of them are staying, or if the brand remains or anything like that. But I know they did say that, you know, all the existing contracts will continue to be serviced. But, you know, like happy to see that Point Insight's found a home. And like I said, they've been a big part of the LBMA and the location industry for a long time. So good on them, and congrats to MapsPeople. Okay, final story now. So then coming all the way back here to Canada, where I am, Horizon Media has announced a new product called AMP. It's a out-of-home planning and analytics platform. You know, this is a space we've covered a lot, right, in the last 2 years on this show. You know, I think if you're in the out-of-home industry, you have either launched a new product or partnered with somebody to figure out, you know, new ways for planning and measurement, you know, in this space. And so, you know, like a lot of these types of solutions that we've covered over that time, you know, this is all about kind of helping the media buying companies and the brands understand, you know, where's the optimal boards, you know, what are the optimal boards to be buying, you know, for your particular brands, you know, and then once you've done that, you know, how can we measure the effectiveness of it, right? And so what we're talking about here from our perspective is, you know, the use of geolocation data, you know, to give you fairly accurate audience insights, you know, counts around how many people saw that or were nearby or those kinds of things. And so being able to do that, I think, is really interesting. And I think to do this in Canada in particular, you know, we have, you know, less players in this market than you do, say, in the US or in Europe. But, you know, to have a local homegrown, you know, insights and analytics platform around this, I think is really interesting. And, you know, Carolyn Bergeron is going to head up this new data insights group for Horizon. So, you know, she's coming with a ton of experience and background to this, formerly from Group M. So I think that, you know, this is a really good move for Horizon. I think, you know, for the industry here locally in the out-of-home space, you know, there's been a bit of a shakeup and movement lately. So I think this is just sort of part and parcel of another good offering from another good player with strong leadership. So.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing a trend here when it comes to measurement, like all across the board, but we've seen and talked a lot about these out of home, whether it's digital or just print out of home, but measuring the efficacy. So I think that really what this is highlighting is that we are now in this age where, you know, marketers and advertisers are held to a higher standard, and they have to show accountability for their spend, and they need to show return on investment. And so everything is shifting now towards more of a performance channel. Even if it's brand awareness, it's still some type of a performance channel, and you need to be able to measure that, and you need to be able to show that your investment's paying off. So I anticipate we're going to have like more and more stories on this. I know that this is like an ongoing topic, whether it's on like addressable television now, or, you know, again, like we said, an out of home. So we're just going to be having, I think, a lot more stories that we discuss here on out throughout the year.
For sure. Yeah. So that's our show for this week. Those 4 stories there, kind of going all over the world, from gaming to out of home to indoor location and everything in between. So thank you for listening and watching. Just a couple of reminders. If you are in Europe and you're going to be at the Geospatial World Forum, I will be there next week. Would love to meet you guys in person. Also, we have our own conference, Retail Loco, coming up June 13th, 14th at the Mall of America in Minneapolis. So we'd love to see you there. You can just go to the LBMA site and you can learn more about those things and get your tickets and so on. We're still looking for a few speakers and sponsors around that. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Ariana or I. We can help you get situated on that. And otherwise, have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next week with another show. Take care. Bye.
Bye.